I'm Szebastian Onne, the almost naked CEO. Entrepreneur maker, I aim to inspire influencer, that is, influence via creativity, engagement, and leadership. I just am. Currently reporting from planet Earth, which I visit rarely. And the time right now is amazing. To know more about me, log on to www.szebastianonne.com, or you can stalk me on any of my social media using my name, Szebastian Onne. And Sebastian begins with a silent S and a very loud Z. It is, however, requested that my stalkers please send me gifts no less than $100 in value. I don't accept anything less than that. Well, that's enough about me. You're watching All Up in Your Business with me, your host, Szebastian Onne. Well, Szebastian freaking Onne. In this show, I invite guests, or as I like to call them, the accused, and dig deep into their personal lives, challenges, and how did they turn their challenges and turn their lives around to become a leader in their own rights. Well, I contact their confidants, maybe even enemies, and dig some dirt on them to build my case against them. And they take the stand to answer all the accusations in front of a live audience. My guest today is, well, or as I said, the personality under investigation is Dr. Shelley Plumb. It is alleged that Dr. Shelley Plumb spent 15 years of her life building a career in podiatry and being bloody successful too. Further, she's accused of believing and spreading the message that self-esteem is the foundation of empowerment. Well, we need to investigate that. Is it really? Not to mention, she saw many ups and downs in her personal life, but never gave up. But wait, it doesn't stop there. The defendant is also accused of making bold career moves, like really bold career moves. One day, she was a podiatric physician, and the next morning, she woke up as the founder of a media production company. How the heck does that happen? Really? Yes, like you, we are all very curious as to how it all happened, and I do not take such bold moves lightly. So Dr. Shelley Plumb, it is time for me to get up all in your business and for you to take the stand to present your case. So please welcome Dr. Shelley Plumb to All Up in Your Business with me, Szebastian Onne.
Hey, Sebastian, how are you?
I am good now.
It's great to be here.
Well, looks like you're in trouble.
Well, I've been there before.
Please take the stand and identify yourself.
Well, I am Dr. Shelley Plumb. I currently reside in West Palm Beach, Florida, but I'm originally from Washington State.
Interesting. Thank you. So first thing, I just want to know for the record of this code, the audience wants to know your journey as a little girl, where you came from. You said you're from Washington, how you grew up, and what were your dreams as a little one?
You know what, I grew up with a loving father and a loving stepmother. I unfortunately lost my mother when I was very, very young, but I don't know. I grew up as a tomboy. I was always looking for adventure and grew up climbing trees and building forts in the backyard and playing with snakes and throwing snakes on my girlfriends. It was quite a journey. And as far as dreams, I had multiple dreams, and I never limited myself with my dreams. I always knew that I wanted to do something big, and I always knew that I wanted to do something that helped people.
That's interesting. So do you want to share some of those dreams as a little girl?
As a little girl, you know what? I always dreamed, I did dream at one point of being a physician. And what my dreams consisted of is actually helping patients, one-on-one. So that was a big dream of mine, and getting out and talking to specifically children and motivating them, letting them know that they were, worth so much more and to elevate their self-esteem. And as a little girl, I don't know that self-esteem was part of my vocabulary, but it was definitely in my psyche at that point.
Wow, for a little girl, that's too smart. It's all So I think my investigations are right. You have been smart from the very beginning, right?
Oh,
Well, so talking about that, in your early youth, we all have role models, and the early youth role models, as we're little children, as we're growing, as we're teenagers,
yes.
play a big role into what we become. So, who were your role models? Let's say around the age of in teenage.
In my teenage years,
Yeah.
my role models actually, believe it or not, it was my father. My father is still my role model, and I will be 100% honest with you. I don't know, to this day, I feel like he can do anything. And whenever I had a problem, he would be there to fix it. I remember days when I was, as a teenager, struggling, going through things that were, as a teenager we go through. And I remember him sitting with me one day and just asking me what was wrong. And we had the most engaging conversation and felt so much better afterwards. And right then I realized that my father is at that moment and always will be a role model for me. And what I've done is I've taken that into my adult life too. I'm passing that on to my children, and they too adore their grandfather.
That's amazing. Now, since then till now, in your life, have your role models changed over the years? Have you? I wouldn't say that your father is not a role model, but have you found somebody else as well who inspires you a lot and who drives your thoughts and ambitions?
You know what? It's funny because my role models over time, I think, to your point, do change. And it's interesting that my role models are not your typical, I guess, celebrity who's doing this and that. It's honestly everyday people are my role models. And case in point is I just got back from a trip to Africa, which I was so grateful to go on. But it was very humbling because we went to a school in Africa, and I met the person who was running the school, and this particular woman was so incredible. They had nothing. They had really limited running water, limited food. The children there were so gracious, and just to listen to the headmaster talk about how her dreams for the school and how she promotes love within the school amongst all the students in Africa was just mesmerizing to me. She was a role model to me at that very particular time in my life. There are many role models. I have a particular friend that I have been friends with for so long. She has been with me through the birth of my children, through my divorce, all of that. And I watch her daily, and she is a role model for me. I have several friends. I have a business advisor who is a very, very dear friend of mine. She also is an incredible role model for me. I don't know. I think that if we're looking for a role model, we just have to open our eyes, because a lot of times the role models are right in front of our faces. And you know what? We just have to have faith. We have to listen to that intuition that is in our hearts. So that's what.
So that is amazing, and that's the amazing thing from the very beginning, from the early childhood. You have been as an individual very inspirational, and I think it is the role models that play a big role in shaping in who you become, how you grow up, the surroundings you have. So speaking of which, we also investigated a little bit into your personal life, and you have been accused of being a very, very, very ambitious girl from the beginning. How do you plead?
Well, I plead guilty. I have been guilty of. I'll tell you what. If I'm not busy, I find something to do, and I'll tell you what. I think it stems from when I was a little girl. I mean, I had all these dreams and all these ambitions and things that I wanted to do, and even as a little girl, I realized that life is really short, right? And we have to do things to get ourselves ahead. So yes, I have been guilty of being ambitious, and I will continue to do that because it's part of me, and I know and I can see it from my children that I'm passing that along.
And what I realize is a child in you is still the same. You're still the same ambitious child who just refuses to grow up. Because as much as I know you, you are a hell lot of fun.
And so are you. We have a lot of fun together. And no, absolutely, because you know what? When we lose sight of that inner child, we're really in trouble. And honestly, I think too, as a physician and then, transitioning to a producer, when we lose sight of that, that is when, horrible things happen, like depression sets in and things like that. So I guess, for audience members out there, really holding on to that inner child, that passion, that love, it's essential.
Absolutely. And guys, if you're just tuning in right now, I just want to quickly remind you, if you're watching on any other page, we broadcast on almost 40 plus pages. And if you're watching on Plum Talk Productions as well, which is Shelley's page, please come to Dreamaniac TV because we can only see your comments if you're on Dreamaniac TV page. You can still watch the show everywhere else, but we cannot see your comments, we cannot interact with you if you're not on Dreamaniac TV, as well as if you do not have Facebook in 2019. I don't know why that would be the case, but if you do not have Facebook, you can go to Dreamaniac.com and you can watch the show live there as well. So coming back to your case, Shelley, now it has been alleged that you were a podiatric physician, if I'm saying that right. I always am nervous about that.
No, it's okay. It's podiatric. Yes.
Podiatric. Well, there you go. So if you, it has been accused that you have been a podiatric physician, and you did say that you had a dream of being a doctor one day. But did you really know what exactly you were going to do? How you, like, which line of medical science you're going to go into? Did you have clarity? And if you did, at what age did you realize that as a child? I'm still talking about, your teenage years or early years.
Yeah, teenage years. You know what? It's interesting how when you're younger, you're so impressionable. Don't you agree? I mean, it's
absolutely
right. And I had, those dreams of helping people. And the first thing that came to mind was being a doctor. But I had a real love too for communications, for writing, that type of thing. So it was really, for me, a little bit of resistance in my heart because there were two things that were competing against one another. And various people, more so clinical professors within college, were talking in my ear saying, oh, this is the profession you should go with, and that type of thing. So I did end up going into medicine. I don't regret it at all, but there was two sides competing with one another. I had the creative side, and then I had the left brain side. So as a child, I ended up, in my teenage years, I ended up listening to my clinical advisors, and I went down the road towards medicine.
Well, and that's an interesting point because we're going to come to that, the creative side and the medical side, because that's one of the accusations on your file, right?
That I've been accused of changing? Okay.
We'll come to that. But
okay.
The first thing I want to know is, once you grew up, you became a doctor. Did you enjoy your profession? Was it exactly what you thought you wanted to do? And what was it like those 15 years?
You know what I enjoyed especially in the beginning is I enjoyed the challenge, because I did foot and ankle surgery for those 15 years, and there was never a dull day. I mean, I took ER call at 6 different hospitals at one point, and what I really loved about it, and I think it was the main reason that I went into medicine back to being a little girl, was my patients. I could relate to what they were going through. I mean, if they were hurting, I wanted to get them out of pain. If they were, had a broken bone, I wanted to fix that. So the challenge with that was very exciting. The aspect of helping people was extremely exciting. But as society changes and things change with pharmaceutical companies and healthcare companies, things started changing in medicine that it no longer became so much about the patient, it became more about the paperwork and all of that. So things started changing at one point, and I always told myself that if I couldn't treat patients the way that I needed to treat them, and I know that they wanted to be treated, then it was time for me to transition. It was time for me to get out. And so there was a point where I did that.
Right. And, it couldn't have been an easy decision, because what you were doing is a very, very noble, profession. And you've been doing that for lots of years. And I guess you get a sense of responsibility. You get a sense of accountability if you
Yes.
change. Like, I am helping people. I am making changes in life. I'm saving lives.
Right.
So how did you deal with that? I'm sure you must have had some struggle making. We're not going to go into what you did, but still making
Yeah.
that decision of, I need to change something. How did you deal with that?
It was not easy. And I will tell you, because at first I didn't know what was going on, but the first inkling is I felt resistance here in my heart. I just, have you ever been there where you feel like something's not right, that you're meant to do something different, but you're not really sure what it is? And I remember even as a physician, feeling that way, and then trying to bring in components of creativity into my physician work, if that makes any sense. And
Why don't you elaborate? I would love to know how exactly did you add creativity into your profession?
I would, when social media became available, I would be the first to jump on board and help, with the website and the social media pages. Marketing is incredibly creative. And so I would jump in, and I would be the one that would first volunteer to be on, the news channel to do, meet the doctor at noon. So I would do that type of thing. Just finding creative ways to market the practice and to market myself and build my practice, because that was a challenge.
Well, so I'm going to ask this again without giving away the current profession.
Sure.
Do you include or involve your doctor side into your new profession?
I absolutely do. Absolutely do. Yes, I you know what? It's so funny, because I have people now who know what I'm doing now, and they know what I did in the past, and they're like, how did that happen? what goes on when, and it was funny, because I had no doubt in my heart that I needed to do it. It was ingrained in me. I knew I was going to make that change.
Right. Looks like I lost my voice there for a second. Sorry. So here's something I'm very, very curious about. As a doctor, and
Yeah.
it's a very responsible profession, and you have your dream, and you're saying that you reached a point where you knew something needed to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you feel at that time, while you were struggling with that, and you were thinking, I need to change something, I need to move on to something else, while all that struggle was going on, did you feel like you're being pulled back into your profession because of the sense of responsibility? And did you go through any sense of guilt?
You know what? It's so funny that you just said guilt, because while you were talking, I was thinking just that. There was guilt. There was guilt on so many different levels. There was guilt that I just went through how many years of schooling, how much money was spent. There was guilt that I have 3 small children and I need to support them. There was guilt there. There was guilt. So what I did is I think it's a natural human reaction to that resistance in my heart, knowing that I needed to make a change. I pushed it down. I kept denying it. And the funny thing happens when you do that, right? I mean, when you push it down and you deny that it's there, it doesn't go away. It just actually gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's almost like a fire in your heart. And there was a point where I couldn't contain it anymore.
Right. And that's it. That's exactly what it is. Once you know what you want in your life, you kind of know you have to cut some cords. You have to make some big changes.
Right.
And speaking of which, when you cut the cord, when you actually made that big change, How did that affect you in the initial stages? Again, without giving away your current profession.
Right. Okay.
How did that affect you? It's a huge change. What you did is a huge change.
Yes, it was, in a word, well, actually there was 2 words to describe it. It was terrifying, absolutely 100% terrifying. On the other hand, it was exhilarating because that's part of my heart, that right brain that had not been exercised to its fullest extent was now being liberated, and it was ecstatic. So it was a 2-edged sword there, and but the exhilaration far outweighs the terrifying part of it.
Wow. Now let me get into a little bit of your personal life. So, well, it is alleged that you went through a divorce, and of course, it's not an easy thing.
No.
If you can tell us a little bit about the time, how it happened, what happened, and did that affect your professional life and decisions, or was that somehow a part of your change of career or not?
You know what? It was, and just being honest, there, I had that resistance in my heart. I was married at the time, and I told my husband at the time that I'm having doubts about the doctoring, doubts about what I'm doing. And this is at that point in my life, I started realizing what I'm really meant to do, what my life calling is. And when I shared that with him, he didn't agree. He wanted me to keep going in the direction that I was going as a doctor and keep denying the creative part of it. And I felt alone. I felt like there was no help at all. And I realized at that moment in my time that our paths, which had been together, were now diverging. And he was going in the same direction, and I was now being called in the opposite direction, and that can't, unfortunately, coexist together.
Right, and it is difficult, especially when you know what you want, and
Yes.
whether it's personal or professional, and if whether it's personal life, whether it's professional life, when you share your life with somebody on any level, and things are going in absolutely opposite direction, it is not easy, because either you pretend to be somebody you're not,
Yes.
or you live in constant struggle, constant conflict, state of conflict, if I would.
Yes.
And it's not an easy thing to go through. And as I believe, what that does to a human psyche is also you start, depression.
Yes.
You start becoming your own enemy.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to take that step. So speaking of which, you got married again, and you have a wonderful partner.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the lucky person.
Oh, you know what? He is just incredible. He is the light of my life. He is the person that has always, that supports my hopes and my dreams. And he and I met, when we first met, my dream of doing the new profession that we'll talk about, excuse me, was in its infancy. It was just starting. And I remember telling him, just about it, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is, and I was hesitant. You can understand why, right? Because my ex-husband was not supportive of that, but to my joy, he was right on board. He was asking questions, he was supportive, and even to this day, I get teary-eyed when I think about it. He comes home and asks me, "How was your day?" He wants to know all the exciting things that we did and the people that we reached and all of that. So it's incredible.
That makes a huge difference, isn't it? It just changes the way you follow your passion, the way you follow your, pursue your dreams. So it really makes a huge difference. And speaking of which, I have investigated and I have interviewed a few witnesses who have told me a few things about you. So we're gonna go there.
Okay. Are we going there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, we need to find out if you are, if you are a culprit of what you've been accused. So it has been alleged, and I can't name because otherwise I'm going to have to send the witnesses into witness protection.
But I may know who they are by what you say, but we'll see.
Well, I'll reserve my comments.
Okay, all right.
You have been accused of being partial towards the green color.
Oh, yes. I love green.
Why?
Green,
Why
there is one primary reason. Green is the color of nature. It's the base color of nature, meaning for me, when I walk outside, it doesn't matter where I'm at. When you look at nature, there's that baseline green and then everything that decorates it, the flowers and all of that. And it makes my heart sing. It reminds me of my grandmother.
Oh, that's beautiful. And guys, if you're just tuning in right now, I just want to remind you again, you're watching All Up in Your Business with me, Szebastian Onne, and with me is the accused, Dr. Shelley Plumb, who has made a big, bold move of career change after being a doctor for 15 years. So if you're interested, please come to facebook.com/Dreamaniac TV so we can see your comments and we can interact with you live and investigate further what Dr. Shelley Plumb is all about and what her journey has been. So, speaking of which, now, green is not the only accusation you have. I've been told you are biased in favor of circles. Everything's circular.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I don't know who told me that, but yes, I absolutely, it's like a pet peeve of mine. Everything has to be circles. You give me triangles, I'm like, no, it's circle. I don't know why it is.
I have to, sorry to interrupt, but tell you what, I even tried to make the frame of my studio circle, but I couldn't. I tried.
Okay, all right. Well, it's still lovely, but you can see behind me, look at the circle. Yes.
I noticed everything. Everything.
And you'll actually notice too in the logo of my business, the new business, circles, right?
Yes. And that's why the banner for today's show also had you in a circle because we knew you loved circles.
Yeah. Thank you. That's so nice.
We have investigated, right?
Yes.
Now, other than that, there are some great things about you, but there are, Alicia says she loves circles too.
Oh, good.
I
love it, Alicia.
I actually know that, Alicia. I know that.
Alicia and I both like pink too.
Well, there you go. Yes, true. Now, and I just want to remind people that, this show is being sponsored by the beautiful sponsors. Well, one of them is my company, Szebastian Private Limited, Alicia Gruelling Inc., Actively Burns, and Red Carpet CEO. Now, other than that, I also find some things that are really annoying about you.
Oh, yes, I have I can name a few.
I'll put it this way, the people you love and the people who love you didn't hesitate to tell me that,
I imagine they don't. Okay, all right. That's
right. So I'll just put it this way, you are actually bound by the rules of this show that you cannot go back and fight with them because you gave me the contact numbers.
I did. I am guilty of that. Okay. That's so funny.
So, one of the pet peeve people have about you is you only take a couple of hours to do your hair.
Yes.
Tell me more. Couple of hours? Really?
To do my hair?
Yes.
Well, not every day. Here's the thing, is that my hair will stay, I can straighten it and then it'll stay for like 3 days. So it'll take me 2 hours to straighten it because it's pretty long. But then once I straighten it, it stays. So it doesn't take me that long.
Well, other than that, there has also been an accusation that you are a little bit about too many ideas at once. This one and this one and this one and this one and this one. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's also do this. Let's also do this.
You know what? My good friends tell me that I am very much like a helium balloon. And then they sit on the strings and try to pull me down, because it's true. Because if you have so many ideas in that balloon, and there is never a shortage of things going on in here, sometimes too much. And yes, I very much, I think like you, I think big. And with big things are a lot of ideas that go with it. Yes, for sure. It helps me, but it can hinder me sometimes too.
I know that. I start with one thing and another, and I get accused. Okay, can we focus on one thing? And I say, well, yeah, we are. But that's a great idea too. I don't want to lose that idea. I don't want to stop doing that. So it's like a non-stop.
Right. I have one friend in particular that all these ideas come and she's like, whoa, wait, she pulled me down. I definitely don't have a shortage of ideas. That's for sure.
Believe me, I know who that friend is.
Yeah. I think I know who it is too.
Okay, so let's just put it this way. You're admitting your guilt about the circles and the greens and too many ideas.
I am guilty as charged, yes.
Excellent. I was expecting you going to say I plead the fifth, but glad you didn't do that.
Well, that's coming, so just keep going.
Well, so here's the question. A big career shift into a totally different arena. What do you have to say about that?
Okay.
Totally, from being a doctor to being an entirely different person. So
Yes.
Tell us what are you doing now?
I am executive producer at Plum Talk Productions, which is a full-service production company that I started. That is the dream of mine, and I have been doing that now for years, and absolutely love it, because I can bring in my prior doctoring knowledge, really with health and wellness, and I can use the production part of my heart to exercise the creativity, which is just thrilling for me.
Okay, so tell me this, why media productions?
Why media productions? You know what? It's interesting because remember I was telling you earlier when I was younger, I had clinical professors that were kind of talking in my ear. Well, initially in college, I was actually a communication major. I was writing promos for the local television station and was thrilled at doing that. I just absolutely loved it. And then as luck would have it, people were talking in my ear and I ended up going into medicine, which I don't regret at all. But after my divorce, well, actually, during my divorce, there was a moment in my life where I was defeated. I didn't know if I was going to get a divorce, what I needed to do. And I remember sitting defeated in the middle of my bedroom floor going, what am I going to do? I was crying. I had no idea what I was going to do. So you know what I did is I took on a sheet of paper and I put on one side how I was feeling. And the other side, I put, what can I do about it? And right then and there, on that paper, became the lifestyle principles for Plum Talk Productions, and that's where it started.
And Alisa says, you admitted to guilt, don't admit it before the judge. Alisa could be the judge of the show, so you'll be in trouble now.
I like the judge, very much. I love the judge.
So now you're buttering up the judge. Okay, that's totally noted. All right. Speaking of which, we're coming towards the end of the show. So I just want to quickly go into, first thing I want to let people know, guys, we're not done yet. We are actually going to have a second episode. We have only a service. This was just about Shelley's personal life, how she's grown up, where she's been, and how did she change the careers and all that. So in next episode, we will be talking about other things. I'll come to that in a second. But before we do that, I do want to ask you, what was the, when you made the shift and when you moved into the media productions,
yes.
What was the main challenge in the new industry which you had to deal with as soon as you entered?
You know what, it's interesting because there were several challenges, but I don't think of them as challenges. I thought of them as opportunities. Boy, I'll tell you what, that was the criteria for me. I told myself when I start, there are not going to be challenges, there's going to be opportunities. So that was it. A lot of people ask me, well, was it the equipment? Was it the editing software? Was it, and that was challenging, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely doable. I think what hit me the hardest was the people that told me that I was crazy, the people that told me that I will fail. And there were actually, a fair amount of them. And I chose not to listen to that.
I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't listen. I'm glad you didn't listen.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I had a corporate lawyer right back when I was starting the company who told me, he listened to everything that I wanted to do, all my plans, and he looked at me and he was silent, and then he looked at me and he says, you know what, just promise me one thing. And I said, well, what? He says, promise me you'll never, ever, ever give up. And I'll tell you what, that's when people come at me with their, and tell me that I will fail, I tell them I will not, and I remember what he says.
Well, as they say, the best answer you can give to somebody who wants you to fail is be very successful.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I realize now that over time, reactions like that sometimes are based in fear. What, that fear doesn't have to be transposed to you. You don't have to own that fear. And, when you're really fulfilling your heart's mission, you just keep going on. I mean, it's a journey.
That's right. As long as you believe in yourself, as long as, there's a statement on your website that I love, that, self-esteem begins the journey of empowerment, something like that. Am I right?
That is absolutely right. Self-esteem is the foundation. And, back when I told you I was on my bedroom floor, just what am I going to do? And I'm crying. I realized that there was something very important missing in my life. And that was my self-esteem. My self-esteem was very low. It wasn't non-existent, but it was very low. I needed something that would ignite the spark. And that's what Productions does for me. I don't regret it for a moment.
Awesome. So in the closing, before we go, and I want people to wait and come back on September 5th for the next episode with Shelley, and we'll talk about her current career and what she's doing and challenges, excitement, everything. But before that, Shelley, before you go, speaking of personal life and challenges and all the tribulations you have gone through, talking about self-esteem, what's your message for people who are watching there, making a big, bold career move after having been in such a long time in a profession?
Yeah.
What's your message for them if they want to make a move?
You know what, I would tell them to listen to their heart. And I know that people say that all the time, but listen to your heart. What brings you peace in your heart? What alleviates that resistance that you're feeling, and that feeling that something is just not right? So look for peace. Also, what is it that you love? Truly love. When you wake up in the morning, and that's how I knew I love what I'm doing, because I wake up in the morning really excited to do what I'm doing. So peace, look for that love, and light. What lights up your life? You get up excited to do what you're going to do, but what is that back to helping people? How is that going to light up your life, and therefore you light up other people's lives? So, when you're looking to change, you got to be really honest with yourself, and, really listen to your heart and look for that peace, that love, and that light.